The champagne sprayed, soaking my dress, but I didn't flinch. Their laughter echoed around the manicured garden, each peal a tiny shard of glass twisting in my gut. They believed they had triumphed, that their charade was complete, and I was nothing more than a silent observer, a discarded prop in their twisted game. They had no idea that the storm was already brewing, that the very foundations of their carefully constructed world were about to crumble beneath their feet. If you've ever felt betrayed by your own blood, by a sister or brother who should have had your back, subscribe now and share your story in the comments. My sister, Emily, always had a knack for theatrics. Her engagement party was no exception. Held at our parents' sprawling estate, it was an opulent display of wealth and privilege, a stage set for her to bask in the spotlight. And bask she did, flitting from guest to guest, a radiant smile plastered on her face, accepting congratulations with the practiced grace of a seasoned performer. I, meanwhile, felt like a ghost haunting the edges of the celebration. Assigned the role of helpful admin, as Emily so sweetly put it, I was tasked with ensuring the caterers were on schedule, the seating arrangements were perfect, and that everyone's champagne flute remained perpetually full. It was a role perfectly designed to keep me out of sight and out of mind. The years hadn't changed a thing. Even as children, Emily was the golden child, the one who excelled at everything she touched, while I was just Jessica. The quiet one. The one who blended into the background. The one who never quite measured up. I tried to ignore the sting of her casual dismissals, the way she subtly undermined my efforts, making sure everyone knew that I was merely assisting in her grand production. It wasn't as if I hadn't carved out a life for myself. I had a good job, a cozy apartment, and a close circle of friends. But within the confines of my family, I was forever relegated to the sidelines. The injustice of it all simmered beneath the surface, a low, persistent hum of resentment that I had learned to suppress over the years. The evening progressed, fueled by endless refills of champagne and the increasingly boisterous chatter of the guests. Emily, emboldened by the attention and the alcohol, began to circulate, dragging her fiancé, Mark, along like a prized trophy. It was then, as she approached a group of our relatives, that the carefully constructed facade began to crack. And this, she announced, her voice dripping with a saccharine sweetness that always set my teeth on edge, is my wonderful sister, Jessica. She's been such a huge help with everything. Although, bless her heart, she's just admin, you know? The group erupted in laughter, a chorus of condescending chuckles that seemed to echo the very sentiments I had tried so hard to ignore. I forced a smile, pretending to be a good sport, but inside, something snapped. The dam that had held back years of resentment finally began to crumble. Mark, however, remained silent, his expression unreadable. He simply stood there, observing the scene with a quiet intensity that I found unsettling. After a moment, he cleared his throat and turned to me, his eyes locking onto mine. "You're just admin?" he asked, his voice devoid of any amusement. "That's not what Emily told me." "Aren't you a judge?" The room fell silent. Emily's smile faltered, her eyes widening in a mixture of shock and panic. The laughter died in the throats of our relatives, replaced by a stunned silence. I stared back at Mark, a flicker of hope igniting within me. He knew. He knew the truth that Emily had so carefully concealed. He knew that I wasn't just some insignificant assistant, but a respected member of the legal community, a woman who had worked tirelessly to achieve her position, a woman who had been deliberately diminished and undermined by her own sister. The person I trusted most to tell him the truth about my life was one of them. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating, broken only by the clinking of champagne glasses as nervous guests attempted to fill the void. Emily's mask of perfection had shattered, revealing a raw, vulnerable panic that I had rarely witnessed. In that moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But the years of subtle digs, the constant comparisons, the deliberate undermining of my achievements, all flooded back, extinguishing any flicker of sympathy. "Mark," she stammered, her voice trembling slightly, "you know how Jessica exaggerates things. She's not really a judge, she just works at the courthouse." The lie hung in the air, pathetic and transparent. I could see the gears turning in Mark's head, the realization dawning on him that the woman he was about to marry was not the person he thought she was. He turned back to me, his gaze searching, questioning. "Jessica," he asked, his voice low and steady, "what do you do?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself against the inevitable fallout. This was it. The moment of truth. The point of no return. "I am a judge," I stated, my voice clear and unwavering. "I preside over cases in the family court division. I've been doing it for 5 years. The room erupted. A cacophony of gasps, whispers, and indignant protests filled the air. Emily's face contorted with rage, her eyes blazing with a fury that I had only ever seen directed at me. "How dare you," she hissed, stepping towards me, her voice dripping with venom. "How dare you try to ruin my engagement party? You've always been jealous of me, haven't you? Always trying to steal my spotlight." I stood my ground, refusing to be intimidated. "I'm not trying to ruin anything, Emily," I replied, my voice calm and measured. "I'm simply stating the truth. A truth that you deliberately concealed from everyone, including your own fiancé." The argument escalated, fueled by years of pent-up resentment and sibling rivalry. Accusations flew back and forth, each word a carefully aimed dart designed to inflict maximum pain. Our parents, who had always favored Emily, attempted to intervene, siding with her as always, dismissing my accomplishments as insignificant, downplaying her deception. But Mark remained silent, his expression thoughtful, absorbing every word, every nuance. The party dissolved into chaos. Guests whispered amongst themselves, their eyes darting between Emily and me, unsure of how to react. The carefully curated atmosphere of celebration had been replaced by a palpable tension, a sense of unease that permeated every corner of the estate. I excused myself, retreating to the relative sanctuary of the gardens, seeking solace in the cool night air. But even there, the echoes of the argument followed me, the sting of Emily's words reverberating in my mind. Sleepless nights became the norm. I replayed the scene in my head, dissecting every word, every gesture, searching for some way to undo the damage. But there was no going back. The truth was out, and the consequences were irreversible. I tried talking to Emily, attempting to bridge the chasm that had grown between us, but she refused to listen, accusing me of deliberately sabotaging her happiness. Our parents, predictably, sided with her, blaming me for the disruption, demanding that I apologize for embarrassing the family. I felt isolated, alone, as if the entire world was against me. The weight of injustice pressed down on me, suffocating me, threatening to crush me under its burden. Even Mark, who had initially seemed sympathetic, began to distance himself, overwhelmed by the drama and the complexities of our family dynamic. He avoided my calls, his responses becoming increasingly terse and noncommittal. I realized that he was starting to doubt me, to question my motives, to believe Emily's version of the story. The thought that he, too, would turn against me was almost unbearable. I had to do something. I had to find a way to clear my name, to expose Emily's lies, to reclaim my life. But how? She had everyone on her side, her parents, her friends, even her fiancé. I was alone, outnumbered, facing an enemy who was not afraid to play dirty. Their biggest weakness? They thought they were untouchable, that their money and influence could shield them from any consequences. They had underestimated me. They had mistaken my silence for weakness. They had assumed that I would simply fade away, allowing them to continue their charade. But they were wrong. So very wrong. The whispers followed me, even in my own courtroom. Cases blurred, legal arguments faded into a dull drone. All I could hear was Emily's voice, laced with venom, accusing me of jealousy, of sabotage. All I could see was Mark's face, etched with doubt, his eyes questioning my every word. The weight of their betrayal was a physical burden, a crushing weight that threatened to suffocate me. I started making mistakes, small errors at first, easily corrected. But they grew bolder, more frequent, threatening to undermine my credibility, my reputation. My colleagues, once supportive and encouraging, began to regard me with a wary distance, their smiles strained, their conversations guarded. I could feel their judgment, their unspoken questions, their fear of being associated with someone who had become a source of scandal and controversy. The isolation was crippling. My friends, bless their hearts, tried to be supportive, offering words of comfort and encouragement. But they couldn't understand. They hadn't experienced the particular brand of betrayal that only a sibling can inflict, the deep-seated pain of being rejected by your own flesh and crimson. Their platitudes felt hollow, their advice useless. I withdrew from them, isolating myself further, sinking deeper into the abyss of despair. My apartment, once a sanctuary, became a prison, the walls closing in on me, the silence amplifying the echoes of Emily's accusations. Sleepless nights stretched into endless days, filled with self-doubt, regret, and a gnawing sense of injustice. I lost my appetite, my clothes hanging loosely on my frame. I neglected my appearance, my hair dull and lifeless, my eyes shadowed with fatigue. I was a shell of my former self, a ghost haunting the fringes of my own life. The breaking point came during a particularly difficult case, a custody battle between two parents locked in a bitter and acrimonious divorce. The pain and anger in the courtroom were palpable, a toxic cloud that seemed to seep into my very bones. As I listened to their accusations, their counter-accusations, their desperate pleas, I saw a reflection of my own family drama, the same petty jealousies, the same deep-seated resentments, the same willingness to inflict pain on those you supposedly loved. Suddenly, everything became crystal clear. I realized that I couldn't let Emily win. I couldn't let her lies define me, to destroy my life, to steal my happiness. I had worked too hard, sacrificed too much, to allow her to take everything away from me. The injustice of it all ignited a spark of defiance within me, a flicker of resolve that had been dormant for too long. I wouldn't let them break me. I wouldn't let them silence me. I would fight back. The decision was like a shot of adrenaline, jolting me back to life. The fog of despair began to lift, replaced by a cold, calculating determination. I started to eat again, forcing down small meals, nourishing my body, rebuilding my strength. I began to exercise, pounding the pavement, sweating out the toxins of grief and resentment. I started to sleep again, allowing my mind to rest, to heal, to prepare for the battle ahead. I researched Emily, digging into her past, uncovering secrets and lies that she had carefully concealed. I spoke to old friends, former colleagues, anyone who might have information about her true character. I listened, I observed, I collected evidence, piecing together a mosaic of deception and manipulation. The person I once thought I knew was a stranger, a carefully constructed persona designed to impress and deceive. I started planning, meticulously mapping out my strategy, anticipating every move, every countermove. I knew that I was playing a dangerous game, that Emily and my parents would stop at nothing to protect their reputation. But I was no longer afraid. I was armed with the truth, fueled by righteous anger, and driven by a burning desire for justice. The exact day they tried to end me was the day I became untouchable. I started documenting everything. Every phone call, every email, every conversation. I knew that I needed proof, irrefutable evidence to support my claims. I purchased a small, discreet recording device, concealing it in my purse, capturing Emily's increasingly frantic attempts to discredit me, to silence me. I recorded our parents, their dismissive comments, their blatant favoritism, their unwavering support for Emily, regardless of the truth. I even managed to record a conversation between Emily and Mark, in which she confessed to deliberately downplaying my accomplishments, to manipulating him into doubting my character. The evidence was damning, a comprehensive record of their deceit and manipulation. But I knew that simply possessing the evidence wasn't enough. I needed to find the right way to reveal it, to expose their lies to the world. I considered going to the police, but I knew that they would be hesitant to get involved in a family dispute, especially one involving prominent members of the community. I thought about hiring a lawyer, but I worried that the legal process would be too slow, too cumbersome, allowing Emily and my parents to bury the truth, to silence me with their wealth and influence. Then, one sleepless night, staring at the ceiling, the answer came to me. I would use their own weapons against them. I would exploit their vanity, their need for validation, their obsession with maintaining a perfect image. I would expose their lies on social media, the very platform they used to project their carefully curated facade. I knew that it was a risky move, that it could backfire, that it could expose me to further ridicule and condemnation. But I was willing to take the risk. I was no longer afraid of their judgment. I was determined to expose the truth, no matter the cost. My vision blurred. The glass in my hand shattered. I felt nothing. Because the plan had begun. Metadata. Title: Skull, Bengali translation. Description: subscribe for more insane revenge stories. Bengali translation. Tags: revenge story, sister betrayal, family drama, legal revenge, social media, Bengali translation. I smiled. I played their game. But I was recording. Every saccharine phone call with Emily, every strained dinner with my parents, every seemingly innocent encounter with Mark, all captured, catalogued, and stored. I needed to build an airtight case, one that couldn't be dismissed as the rantings of a jealous sister. My legal background proved invaluable. I knew how to gather evidence, how to present it in a compelling way, how to anticipate their defenses. I started with Emily's social media accounts, meticulously archiving every post, every photo, every comment. I used forensic software to analyze the images, searching for inconsistencies, for subtle signs of manipulation. I discovered that many of the photos had been digitally altered, the background subtly changed to create a false impression of wealth and happiness. Even her engagement ring, the one she flaunted so proudly, was a fake, a cheap imitation of the real thing. I dug deeper into her past, contacting former classmates, old boyfriends, even disgruntled ex-employees. The stories that emerged painted a picture of a ruthless, ambitious woman who was willing to do anything to get ahead, to lie, to cheat, to manipulate, even to betray those closest to her. One former colleague revealed that Emily had plagiarized a major presentation at work, stealing credit for someone else's hard work. Another recounted how she had spread rumors about a rival, sabotaging their career prospects. The more I learned, the more disgusted I became. How could I have been so blind? How could I have allowed myself to be manipulated for so long? The mini conflicts were constant. Emily would call, her voice dripping with false concern, asking how I was doing, subtly probing for information. Our parents would send guilt-tripping text messages, accusing me of causing unnecessary drama, urging me to apologize to Emily. Mark would send occasional emails, his tone formal and distant, expressing his confusion and disappointment. Each interaction was a test, a probe, designed to gauge my resolve, to undermine my confidence. I refused to let them break me. I responded to their calls with bland pleasantries, revealing nothing, betraying nothing. I ignored their text messages, refusing to engage in their emotional blackmail. I replied to Mark's emails with polite acknowledgments, avoiding any discussion of the family drama. I became a master of deception, a chameleon, blending seamlessly into their world, while secretly plotting their downfall. One evening, while catching up with my mother over tea, an event I'd usually avoid, she casually mentioned Emily's upcoming bridal shower. It was to be a lavish affair, held at an exclusive country club, attended by all of Emily's wealthy and influential friends. The perfect stage, I thought, for a grand reveal. The anticipation was building. I felt like a coiled spring, wound tight, ready to unleash. I knew that my actions would have far-reaching consequences, that they would shatter the carefully constructed facade of our family, that they would expose Emily's lies to the world. But I was no longer afraid. I was ready. I had spent weeks meticulously crafting my presentation, compiling all of the evidence I had gathered, organizing it into a coherent and compelling narrative. I had created a fake social media account, using a burner phone and a VPN to conceal my identity. I had scheduled the posts to go live at specific times, timed to coincide with the bridal shower. I knew that the fallout would be explosive, that it would send shockwaves through our community. But I was prepared for the storm. I had even consulted with a friend who worked in public relations, seeking advice on how to manage the media attention that was sure to follow. She cautioned me about the risks involved, warning me that I could face legal action, even criminal charges. But she also acknowledged that I had a strong case, that the truth was on my side. She offered to help me craft a statement, to manage the media inquiries, to protect my reputation. I accepted her offer gratefully, knowing that I couldn't do this alone. The final piece of the puzzle was Mark. I knew that he deserved to know the truth, that he was being manipulated and deceived by Emily. But I also knew that he wouldn't believe me, not without concrete evidence. So, I decided to send him an anonymous email, containing a link to a hidden website where I had uploaded all of the evidence I had gathered. The website was password protected, and I included the password in the email, urging him to view the information before making any further decisions about his future with Emily. I held my breath, waiting for his response. Days turned into weeks, but I heard nothing. I started to doubt myself, to wonder if I had made a mistake. Maybe he didn't care about the truth. Maybe he was so blinded by Emily's charm that he was willing to overlook her flaws. Or maybe, just maybe, he had seen the evidence and was quietly processing the information, trying to decide what to do. I knew that I had to be patient, that I couldn't force him to confront the truth. All I could do was wait, and hope that he would make the right decision. The silence from Mark was deafening. I checked my email obsessively, refreshing the inbox every few minutes, praying for some sign that he had received my message, that he had seen the evidence. Nothing. Doubt crept in, whispering insidious thoughts in my ear. Had I overestimated Mark? Was he truly so infatuated with Emily that he was willing to ignore the truth, to turn a blind eye to her lies? Or had Emily somehow intercepted the email, deleting it before he had a chance to see it? The thought sent a shiver down my spine. I couldn't afford to underestimate her. She was cunning, resourceful, and utterly ruthless. I needed to be one step ahead of her, to anticipate her every move. Then, a breakthrough. While meticulously scrubbing Emily's digital footprint, a habit that bordered on obsessive, I stumbled upon a hidden folder on her cloud storage account. It was password protected, but after several attempts, using a combination of her birthday, her mother's maiden name, and her pet's name, I finally cracked the code. What I found inside chilled me to the bone. It was a collection of documents, emails, and photographs, detailing a scheme to sabotage my career, to ruin my reputation, to drive me out of the legal profession altogether. The documents revealed that Emily had been secretly colluding with one of my colleagues, a man named David, who had always seemed friendly and supportive. He had been feeding her information about my cases, providing her with confidential documents, and even planting false evidence to undermine my arguments. The emails showed that Emily had been paying David a substantial sum of money for his services, using funds from a secret bank account that our parents had set up for her years ago. The photographs were the most damning evidence of all. They showed Emily and David meeting in secret locations, exchanging documents and cash. Some of the photos were taken inside my own office, proving that David had been betraying my trust, violating my privacy, and jeopardizing my career. I felt a surge of white-hot rage, so intense that it threatened to consume me. My vision blurred, my hands trembled, my teeth clenched so hard that my jaw ached. How could they do this to me? How could they stoop so low? The darkness of their betrayal was suffocating. But beneath the rage, a cold, calculating determination began to simmer. They had crossed a line. They had declared total war. And now, I was going to finish it. I meticulously copied all of the files from Emily's cloud storage account onto a secure hard drive, creating multiple backups to ensure that the evidence would be safe, even if she discovered my intrusion. Then, I started to formulate my plan, a meticulously crafted strategy to expose their treachery, to destroy their reputations, and to reclaim my life. The bridal shower was in 2 weeks. It was the perfect opportunity. I would use their celebration as a stage to reveal the truth, to expose their lies to the world. I started making preparations, contacting my friend in public relations, briefing her on the latest developments, and seeking her advice on how to manage the fallout. She was shocked by the evidence I had uncovered, but she remained supportive, offering her expertise and guidance. Together, we crafted a media strategy, preparing press releases, drafting statements, and identifying key journalists who would be sympathetic to my story. I also reached out to a private investigator, hiring him to gather additional evidence, to track Emily's movements, and to protect me from any potential threats. He was a seasoned professional, discreet and reliable, with a reputation for getting results. With my team in place, I began to focus on the details of my plan. I decided to create a series of anonymous social media posts, timed to coincide with the bridal shower, revealing the evidence I had gathered, one piece at a time, building suspense and anticipation. I would start with Emily's social media accounts, exposing her digitally altered photos, her fake engagement ring, and her plagiarized presentation. Then, I would move on to David, revealing his betrayal, his secret payments, and his collusion with Emily. Finally, I would reveal the documents from Emily's cloud storage account, exposing their scheme to sabotage my career, to ruin my reputation, to end me. The final social media post would contain a link to a website where I had uploaded all of the evidence, allowing anyone to view the documents, emails, and photographs for themselves. I knew that the impact would be devastating, that it would shatter Emily's carefully constructed image, that it would destroy her reputation, and that it would likely end her relationship with Mark. But I was no longer concerned with the consequences. I was driven by a burning desire for justice, a relentless determination to expose the truth, no matter the cost. My focus intensified. They thought they could play me. They thought they could silence me. But they were wrong. So very wrong. Metadata. Title: Smiling Face with Horns. Bengali translation: Smiling Face with Horns. Description: click here for more revenge. Bengali translation. Tags: revenge story, sister betrayal, family drama, legal revenge, social media. Bengali translation. The day of Emily's bridal shower dawned bright and clear, a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside me. I woke up early, my heart pounding in my chest, a mixture of anxiety and anticipation swirling within me. I double-checked my preparations, ensuring that all of the social media posts were scheduled correctly, that the website was live, and that the private investigator was in position. I took a deep breath, reminding myself that I was doing this for myself, to reclaim my life, to expose the truth. As I arrived at the country club, I could feel the tension radiating off me in waves, a palpable energy that threatened to shatter the carefully constructed facade of normalcy. The venue was lavishly decorated, the air thick with the scent of expensive perfume and champagne. Guests milled about, dressed in their finest attire, their faces beaming with excitement and anticipation. Emily stood in the center of it all, radiant in a white dress, her face glowing with happiness. She spotted me and rushed over, her eyes sparkling with false warmth. "I'm so glad you could make it," she gushed, her voice dripping with saccharine sweetness. "I was worried you wouldn't come." I forced a smile, playing along with her charade. "I wouldn't miss it for the world," I replied, my voice carefully controlled. As the shower progressed, I mingled with the guests, exchanging pleasantries, observing Emily's every move. I could see the pride in her eyes, the satisfaction in her smile, the confidence in her demeanor. She truly believed that she had gotten away with it, that she had successfully manipulated everyone around her, that she was untouchable. She was wrong. At precisely 3 p.m., the first social media post went live. It was a side-by-side comparison of Emily's social media photos and the original, unedited versions, revealing the digital alterations, the subtle manipulations, the false impressions. Within minutes, the post went viral, spreading like wildfire across the internet. Guests began to murmur, their faces etched with confusion and disbelief. Emily's smile faltered, her eyes darting around the room, searching for the source of the commotion. She saw the first post, the color drained from her face. The world slowed down. The second post went live, revealing Emily's fake engagement ring, the cheap imitation, the symbol of her fraudulent relationship. A collective gasp swept through the room. Emily's face crumpled, her eyes welling up with tears. Mark arrived, his face a mask of concern. He rushed to Emily's side, wrapping his arm around her protectively. He saw the first two posts and then looked at Emily with complete and utter shock. At 3:15 p.m., the final post went live, containing the link to the website where I had uploaded all of the evidence. I watched as the guests pulled out their phones, clicking on the link, their faces contorting with shock and disgust as they scrolled through the documents, emails, and photographs. Mark saw the pictures, the emails, the details of her plot. His face registered pain, betrayal, and devastation. The truth had been exposed. Emily's lies had been revealed. Her perfect world had come crashing down. I watched as the devastation spread through the room. Emily ran from the venue, Mark followed. David arrived at the venue. He was greeted by his wife. She slapped him. She knew everything. Silence filled the room. In the days that followed, the fallout was catastrophic. Emily's reputation was destroyed. Her friends abandoned her. Her family disowned her. Her engagement with Mark was off. The story was everywhere. Her career was ruined. David lost his job, and his reputation was forever tarnished. He was also facing potential legal action from my firm. The private investigator was worth every single penny. Emily tried to contact me, begging for forgiveness, pleading for a second chance, but I refused to speak to her. I had nothing left to say. Mark sent me an email, thanking me for exposing the truth, expressing his remorse for not believing me sooner. He said that he was disgusted by Emily's behavior and that he was determined to move on with his life. He wished me well and hoped that one day, we could rebuild our relationship. I responded to his email, acknowledging his apology, expressing my hope for his future. I did not wish him ill. I wished to be left alone. I returned to my work. I started to heal. Months later, I received a message from my parents. They apologized for their behavior, admitting that they had been blinded by Emily's charm, that they had failed to see the truth. They asked for my forgiveness, expressing their desire to reconcile. I considered their request carefully. I decided that I was willing to give them another chance, but on my terms. I told them that I needed time, that I needed space, that I needed to heal. I also made it clear that I would not tolerate any further manipulation or deceit. They agreed to my terms, promising to respect my boundaries. The healing process was slow and painful, but with each passing day, I felt myself growing stronger, more resilient, more confident. I learned to trust my instincts, to value my intuition, to protect my boundaries. I learned that forgiveness is not about condoning the actions of others, but about releasing yourself from the burden of anger and resentment. I learned that revenge is not sweet, but that justice is essential. They lost everything. I just smiled. Revenge isn't sweet. It's necessary. Would you have done the same? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe for more justice.